how do we start to understand this spiritual worldview? Well, let's just start with a simple example, and that's John the Baptist. John the Baptist was filled with the Spirit from his mother's womb. In the current worldview, how do you make sense of that? In the current worldview, you hear a presentation of the gospel, you think it over, you make a decision for Christ, and that's how God interacts with us. Well, how could John the Baptist be filled with the Spirit from his mother's womb? Take it one step farther. When Jesus' mother, Mary, comes to meet Elizabeth, the baby, John the Baptist, in the womb leaps. The baby in the womb recognizes Mary approaching. There's a spirit-to-spirit thing that's going on here. Look at this interaction that's very clearly described in Scripture. How do you account for any of that in the current model? And the answer is you don't. So what changes here is if you go back to Psalm 139 and you talk about God literally fashioning the person, the real person is that spiritual man. The real person is that invisible creation. And then the language says, and this is interesting, he covers the baby. He covers the real person in the womb, that spiritual man. He covers that real person with what? With a body. Isn't that language interesting? You've got this deeper person that is God-breathed. What happens? We see this over and over again in Scripture. God literally breathes life into the individual, and that breath becomes some kind of a spiritual being, a creation that is functioning literally from conception. Now think about that. If you have a little baby that's functioning from conception, this just changes everything in terms of understanding, and it actually fits very well with what science has discovered. You've got this little baby with this functioning spirit from the very beginning. What happens? Mother is going through all kinds of different things, and maybe she's fearful. Well, when she's fearful, what's happening? That fear is dumping on or interacting with that baby, and it's already having this dynamic process that's going on where there's a spiritual shaping going on in that little baby, even before the baby has developed the level of brain function to where it really can be recorded at a brain level. This is what I believe because it's what Scripture teaches, that the Spirit is God-breathed and is functioning from the beginning. It takes a while for the body to catch up. You know, you're 3, you're 4, you're 5, you're 6. Somewhere in there, abstract reasoning begins to function, and then our memory is able to start catching up with certain kinds of things. But what does a person do about all of those things that happened, quote, pre-memory? And what I believe when you look at a spiritual worldview, what I believe is you've got that functioning spirit that's already being shaped. It's already interacting with mama. It's already interacting with dad and the basic environment, even all the way back in the womb. That's part of why the personality, which science will tell you, is significantly shaped by the time the child is 1 year old. We don't even have language yet. We don't even have the kinds of things that you would think would shape the character of a person. And yet, all of a sudden, we've got this fully shaped person. Now, think about all this and listen to it. It just does, it fits with science. It fits with what we know. It fits with what we understand. But it certainly doesn't fit with a mind-centered worldview, which is what we have so far.
Video production, editing, and audio by Matthew. Set design and setup by Ashley. Content recorded live at Studio 104.